Morning, everybody. Carlos, I don't think I'm on. Yeah? Ooh. Now that's kind of hot. Could we come down a wee bit? Okay, thank you. Yes, Tab. It's having a conversation. Good morning, everybody. I'm not sure how many of you know this song. It's called We Rise. It's one of the songs that's been sung as part of the singing resistance movement in Minneapolis, and it's quite a nice song. So you'll see that there's sections that are bold-faced. So after I sing it through a couple times, I'm going to ask you to join me on the bold-face text. We rise, humbly hearted rise. We won't be delighted, rise. With spirit to guide us, rise. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we right here. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we right here. We rise. All of the children rise. Elders with wisdom rise. Ancestors surround us, rise. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. We rise up from the wreckage, rise with tears and with courage, rise fighting for life. We rise in hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. We rise, humbly hearted, rise. We won't be divided, rise. With spirit to guide us, rise. Well done.
Beverley, welcome back. What a great pleasure it is to start off with your music.
Thank you, Tab.
And welcome all of those here in the sanctuary or on Zoom or in the future on YouTube to your neighborhood Unitarian Universalist congregation's Sunday service. If you're joining us for the first time, know that you are welcome here, as is everyone seeking a spiritual community. Our mission at Neighborhood is to empower spiritual growth and shared action for the care of our world. My name is Tab Enta, and I will be your service weaver this morning. For those of us here in person, please remember to be aware of the various needs and boundaries of all of us gathered together, keeping aisles clear for mobility devices, only taking photos with permission, and if you choose to hang out in our mask-only seating area on the side closer to me of this pillar to my left, please take a mask. It's a mask-only seating area. We are a community of many ages and abilities, which means we embrace whatever little noises or distractions come with being together, and we are committed to a love that makes space for all. That said, if you have a phone or other device which can be silenced, please take a moment to do so now, unless that's something that you need to engage more fully with the service. And know that our services usually run about an hour and a half in length, so in that time, if there's anything you need to make yourself comfy, you want to stretch, fidget, get up, get a glass of water, pace, go into the wiggle room, which has a comfy couch and some toys where you can hear but not be heard, or over to the activity table where the cool kids hang out. Please feel free to do so at any point. If you are new and would like us to keep in touch, please fill out a newcomer card, and here my script says, open bracket, wave card, close bracket. Don't have a card. Can someone wave a card? Thanks, Lauren. Oh, wow. All right, all the cards look like that. They're probably in the seat back pockets in front of you. If you are new and would like to keep in touch, please fill out a newcomer card with your contact information and slip it into the offering plate when it gets passed around later in the service. Whoever you are, wherever you are in your relationship to belief, spirituality, or this community, we're glad you're here today. Now is the time to greet those around you. After you've greeted a few neighbors in Meet Space, please turn to the back wall and offer a hello to our Zoomers and our future watchers on YouTube. You'll hear a chime at the end. Thank you. Please know that these conversations will continue after the service during coffee time. The land beneath the floorboards, the water which flows through the plumbing and our bodies and sustains us, and the air that fills our lungs this morning all make up the traditional lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit, who are the treaty holders of this place, as well as the Haudenosaunee Confederacy and Wendat peoples. These nations, as many of you know, have been here since way before any of us and are still here today, now joined by other First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples, as well as settlers, immigrants, involuntarily displaced peoples, and their descendants in this place called Takaranto, or where there are trees standing in the water. In recent centuries, the collective story of this place and its people has been marked by colonial genocide, racist violence, broken covenants, and the stalwart presence and action of First Nations peoples and allies still fighting for land back, liberation, and justice for all living things. As we assemble here, let us recommit our hearts and our hands to justice. Please join me in either reading or listening to our invocation, whose words are projected on screen. Let us cast the circle of a sacred space here. Let us cast the circle of a cherished space here, a space of safety, a place of forgiveness, a place of love. If we want the world to change, we must craft in our space and in ourselves the seeds that grow a different kind of life, a life of graciousness, of creative intelligence, a place of life and spirit for ourselves and our families. This morning, our chalice will be lit by Anne. There you are. And we'll be taking the flame from our children's lantern and using it to light our chalice. And to all of the children of this community, thank you for sharing your light with us. Please join in our chalice lighting song. Who's ready for some centering music?
In the dark night, turn stars, I see the ones ahead, circling on the river, around the teacher, the giver. I see their hearts and all the fear they've shed. They beckon me, come, love can redeem. Life is an art. You have a part that's yours to play. Come, show us your dreams. Life needs your hand to do what you can in your own way. This world is our combined imagination. Your life a precious personal creation. What have you learned? What blessings earned, they say. Each of us to others is connected. If one of us is lost, we're all affected. How will you live? What will you give today? They beckon me, come, love can redeem. Life is an art. You have a part that's yours to play. Come, show us your dreams. Life needs your hand to do what you can in your own way. I'm casting my light on the river as it tumbles along to the sea, on the river of stars to the giver. It's all of you, it's all of me. This world is our combined imagination. Your life a precious personal creation. What have you learned? What blessings earned, they say. Each of us to others is connected. If one of us is lost, we're all affected. How will you live? What will you give today? They beckon me, come, love can redeem. Life is an art. You have a part that's yours to play. Come, show us your dreams. Life needs your hand to do what you can in your own way. I'm casting my life on the river as it tumbles along to the sea, on the river of stars to the giver. It's all of you, it's all of me. Come, love can redeem. Life is an art. You have a part that's yours to play. Come, show us your dreams. Life needs your hand to do what you can in your own way. That was stunning.
Right, the intro.
Nice.
Okay.
Thank you. And by way of post-production, that number comes to us from Glen Copeland, who, you want to give a little wave? Not to put you on the spot, but I just wanted to make sure you get some love from the folks gathered here today. Sorry, that song gets me worked up. Anyway. So our guest musicians today are Glen, and a real piece of the heart and soul, I think, of music that calls us to feel into being in relationship with one another. I had the pleasure a couple of months ago of seeing you perform live at a gala that I was at for work reasons, and you made me cry in front of my boss, so thanks. Today, we will also be hearing some wonderful guest music from Beverley Horton, who's back at our congregation. For those who have not yet had the pleasure of getting to know her, Beverley has been a Unitarian Universalist for more than 25 years and an active member of the First Unitarian Church of Hamilton for just about as long. She's been active in leadership at her congregation, most squarely focused on music, ministry, and worship arts. Beverley's currently co-teaching a course on UU Theology and Hymnody, never said that word out loud before, for the UUA Institute, marking an extension of her leadership into the broader denominational context. Beverley's also served as the co-chair of the nominating committee for the Association of UU Music Ministries, the co-chair of the CUC's Dismantling Racism Study Group, and, along with our dear Suzanne, on the UUA's virtual hymnal task force that shepherded the production of our new virtual hymnal, Sing Out Love. In these and other efforts, Beverley has actively advocated for our individual and collective commitment to dismantling racism and systemic barriers to full inclusion in our faith and beyond. Today, we have the pleasure of welcoming not one, but two guests hailing from the Hamilton First lineage. Rev Linda Thompson, who will be delivering our message today, currently serves as part-time contract minister at Toronto First. Linda first found Unitarian Universalism in 1983 when she, her partner Gary, and their two young children walked into the First Unitarian Church of Hamilton. Before beginning work supporting congregations, Linda was an active lay leader, serving as chair of the board, on the HR committee, and as a lay chaplain. Linda studied at Meadville Lombard Theological School and was ordained in 2013, and most recently held the role of Congregational Life Lead for the Central and Eastern regions for the CUC. Our theme for this month is our 8th principle, and today's focus is on what it means to be authentically UU. That's a big one. Like, what are we? It's easy to say what we're not. We're non-creedal, we're non-coercive, and as many of us have had to reassure our concerned friends and families, we're not a cult. We know what we're not, right? We know what we're not, but the question of what we are is a little bit trickier to grasp. The 8th principle states that as UUs, we affirm and promote individual and communal action that accountably dismantles racism and systemic barriers to full inclusion in ourselves and our institutions. That is, we promise to take action against racism and other barriers that make society unfair. We promise to notice and change our behavior when our actions exclude others. And we promise to support other people in doing the same thing. That, of course, is one of the core tenets of what it means to be authentically UU. But I think we can learn just as much from how the 8th principle got here as what it says. Out of all of our principles, as many of you know, the 8th is the most recent to be officially adopted nationwide by the Canadian Unitarian Council. Its earliest written iteration dates back to a 2013 draft by UU organizers Dr. Paula Cole-Jones and Dr. Bruce Pollock-Johnson, who you will now see pictured on the slides around the sanctuary. The seeds that would grow into that 2013 draft come from a lot further back, from about 15 years of Dr. Cole-Jones's work consulting and leading within UU congregations, and noticing time and time again that with the 7 principles that we had at the time, good UUs could faithfully observe those to the letter without ever really grappling with the effects of racism in our communities, and maybe an 8th principle was needed to fill the gap. Today is not a history lesson, although I encourage everybody to search up 8th principle in the search bar on the UUA's website for a real worthy deep dive on the subject. But long story short, More heads were put together, and in May 2017, Dr. Pollock Johnson's home congregation, the UU Church of the Restoration in Philadelphia, became the first UU congregation to formally adopt the eighth principle. More congregations followed, and it was formally adopted by the CUC in November 21, following more and more discussion, more and more committees, more and more thinking and talking on what it would mean for our faith as a whole. It's been adopted by all Canadian congregations and by over 125 member congregations of the UUA down south of the border. So as we come to the end of our month of exploring the eighth principle, I want to look at the process by which it came to be. How, as we co-created it as a faith, it also co-created us. The eighth principle is a covenant, not a commandment. It wasn't divinely chiseled onto a pair of stone tablets and handed down to one of us to be spread amongst the masses. And it's not a coincidence. It didn't come about because a lot of different separate congregations independently but simultaneously happened to have the same good idea. Its widespread adoption came as the result of Unitarian Universalists deciding together what it means to be authentically UU. It was the result of justice seekers, community builders, witnesses of deep pain, tellers of difficult truths, and stewards of brighter tomorrows, all pushing each other together to wonder not just what Unitarian Universalism is, but what it ought to be, until a path forward started to become clearer and clearer. So what does the eighth principle tell us? Well, it tells me that part of being authentically UU is confronting injustices, especially the ones that are kind of hard and thorny to talk about. It tells me that part of being authentically UU is covenanting, making promises to community and then acting on them. But it also shows me that in order to understand what it means to be authentically UU, we don't just sit and wonder, rattle around in our own brains, or consult one handy source text with authority over all others. The most authentically UU thing might just be the process of grappling to become something greater. That might be what Dutch-Canadian Catholic priest and author Henry Nouwen was talking about when he said, "I was educated in a seminary that made me believe that ministry was essentially an individual affair. I was made to feel like a man sent on a long, long hike with a huge backpack containing all the things necessary to help the people I would meet on the road. Questions had answers, problems had solutions, and pains had their medicines. Over the years, I realized that things are not as simple as that." On that note, Beverley, will you introduce our next song?
Okay. Yeah? Okay. So you'll see when the slide comes up, there's only one verse of Over My Head. We're going to do 3. So when we get to the end of the first verse, I'm going to not scream out, but I will let you know what the word that's going to fill in for music. Actually, I will tell you. It's music, singing, glory. But we'll work through. Over my head, I hear music in the air. Over my head, I hear music in the air. Over my head, I hear music in the air. There must be a God somewhere. Now we're gonna sing. Over my head, I hear singing in the air. Over my head, I hear singing in the air. Over my head, I hear singing in the air. There must be a God somewhere. Over my head, I hear glory in the air. Over my head, I hear glory in the air. Over my head, I hear glory in the air. There must be a God somewhere. Let's go back to music. Over my head, I hear music in the air. Over my head, I hear music in the air. Over my head, I hear music in the air. There must be a God somewhere.
What a joy to all get to sing together. Thank you so much, Beverly. And now we have come to our time for all ages. Kat, unfortunately, is not able to join us this morning, so you get to hear more of my voice, good news or bad news, depending on who you ask. But I'd like to invite children of all ages to come join me at the front of the sanctuary. Just feels right to be here when we're telling a story for all ages. And for today's time for all ages, Kat sent me some things that they were thinking, and we've got some things that I'm thinking. And I'm thinking today is a good day to talk about covenants, because covenant is a word that we say a lot in UU spaces. Now, when I looked up the dictionary definition of covenant, I got a lot of stuff about legal agreements and binding contracts, but I think as Unitarian Universalists, we often use that word a little bit differently. Can anybody just kind of shout them out, some words that come to mind when we say covenant? Promise? Yeah. What else? Commitment to the coven. Sorry? Guidelines. I like that. Not walls, but something to follow. Alignment. Alignment with what? Agreement, so agreeing to do things. Trust. I really like that one. That's a big one. Trusting who? Trusting each other. Respect. Ooh, I like that. Trusting the process we create together. A joined path of comfort. Wow, I should be writing these down. Ooh, discomfort. I like that. Has anyone ever covenanted to do something that felt a little uncomfortable? Kurt, how about you? Making compromises when needed. Yeah, I like that. All of these, they sort of starts to make the picture of what covenant means to Unitarian Universalists a little bit clearer in our heads. I want to share something that Kat wrote about what it means to be authentically UU and how that might fit into covenants. Kat wrote that being authentically Unitarian Universalist isn't just about what we believe in our heads. It's about how we live in our neighborhoods. It's about how we show up for one another. It's about whether our values leave this building with us. Kat gave me a little list of some things that one might covenant to do, or as part of a bigger covenant you may already have done before. Things like changed your mind thoughtfully. Has anyone ever changed their mind about something after they really thought about it? Need a show of hands? Anyone's? All right, and leave your hands up if that thinking about it was kind of hard to do. There's more hands than there were before. All right, has anyone ever made a covenant that involved standing up for somebody? Has anyone ever made a covenant where they ended up needing to apologize and really mean it? How about a covenant to call or write to somebody in power, like your city councilor or your teacher? How about a covenant to practice love? And I'm wondering if we've got time for maybe one or two quick shares. I would like to offer the floor to the children first. Would any children in the sanctuary like to share about a time that they made a covenant to do something? All right, any former children perhaps? Come on, don't make me do this. We're getting enough of my voice this morning as is. Luann.
Well, we have a covenant in the choir. Basically, just respect each other and don't bully each other. Basically, be kind and listen to each other.
I like that. That's. I know, I've seen it out in the cappuccino room. But that really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? So, as we go through the rest of our service, and we've got one more. Beautiful.
I made a covenant not to judge anybody on face value.
And when you say on face value, tell us about that.
Because people can appear to look one way or do something some way or everything, but you don't know what's going on in their soul or what they're struggling with. You don't know unless you ask them, right? And then offer some kind of, I understand. I've been there, right? Yeah.
Kind of like when I said hi to you this morning, and you thanked me for wearing my name tag, even though I had it on backwards the whole time. No judgment. So as we go through the rest of our service, and as our young ones go have a party in the Rainbow Room, let's remember that it's our everyday actions, small, quiet, brave, that make up the covenants which build our beloved UU community.
Good morning, everyone. It's delightful to be here with you. Good morning. Tab read some words by Henry Nouwen earlier. Henry, as was noted, was a Roman Catholic priest. What I find interesting about Nouwen's story is they left their academic role at Harvard and became a pastor at one of the L'Arche communities here in Ontario, at Richmond Hill. If you don't know, L'Arche communities are communities where people with significant developmental disabilities are integrated and live in community. That community is still going strong in Richmond Hill. And Nouwen wrote, and this is a bit of a recap, let me tell you about another experience that came out of my move. It was the experience of shared ministry. I was educated at a seminary that made me believe that ministry was essentially an individual affair. I had to be well-trained and well-formed, and after 6 years of training and formation, I was considered well-equipped to preach, administer the sacraments, counsel, and run a parish. I was made to feel like a man sent on a long, long hike with a huge backpack containing all the things necessary to help the people I would meet on the road. Questions had answers, problems had solution, and pains had their medicine. Over the years, I realized that things are not as simple as that. And the piece I'm reading concludes with these words: "We cannot bring good news on our own. I have found over and over again how hard it is to be truly faithful when I'm alone. I need my siblings to pray with me, to speak with me about the spiritual task at hand, and to challenge me to stay pure in mind, heart, and body." Now, we might not use all of the language that Nouwen uses, but I'm prepared to suggest that we too need one another so that we are able to stay true to our best selves, to help one another so that no one needs to carry that big backpack alone. More frequently in my work, and was mentioned, I used to work with the Canadian Unitarian Council supporting congregations in the eastern half of the country. And over time, I've begun to hear the language of shared ministry more frequently than I did, and which I was on a little hobby horse with that language myself. But it seems to be taking off because the reality is all ministries are shared ministries. Even in congregations where there's a full-time minister, the reality is that most of the work is done by the people in the room, not by the people at the pulpit. Some congregations happen to work with a professional minister. And I think this shift to shared ministry as an understanding is important. More than ever, we are beginning to wrestle with the real tension in our congregations as well between individual and community. When I first became a UU all those years ago, I can't do the arithmetic that quickly, there was a lot of talk about what I believe. And we still hear that in our congregations, and I'm not saying that's not important. But it can be tricky work in a UU congregation when many of us are so eager, perhaps too eager at times, to define ourselves by differentiating ourselves from other religious paths or what we feel comfortable with. But we're here in a community. And I don't think that enlightenment or insight are solitary sports. We need one another. And if we didn't believe in our hearts that that was true, we wouldn't be here gathered this morning. The people online would be using their devices to watch cat videos instead of this. Or maybe the hockey game, just saying. A congregational website I came across not so long ago says this about the motivations that people have for attendance at our congregations. People come to our churches to be lifted out of the ordinary, to be drawn up from the mundane, and to seek relief from the omnipresent materialism of our culture. People come into religious community to wrestle with life's ultimate questions, looking for a place to seek meaning about living and dying and all the places in between. People are looking for a way to make a difference in the world, to live a life that matters. In our society of frequent relocations and diminished family support, people also come to congregations to find friends and community. They come for a sense of intimacy and a safe place in which they can be accepted. They come looking for a place to belong. Well, that may be why some people came. I personally joined because I wanted to serve on a committee. I've had lots of opportunities to do that. Truthfully, though, if we do it right, if we get it right, our congregations can be places where we support one another in the journey, in the work of intimacy and ultimacy. We can do it for ourselves here, but more significantly for me, we can help one another. Congregations remind us that we need to do it together. And sometimes we fall short. We have aspirations, we have covenants, and we are human. Sometimes congregations fall short and they don't deliver what people are looking for or what we said we were going to deliver. They try, we try, but sometimes we don't deliver the goods. And we find that people, sometimes after a burst of enthusiasm, slowly drift away. I think we'd be well served to be more honest about our pesky habit of being human and fallible. Some time ago, I took a course that helped me make the connection between theology and the way congregations and denominations organize. I considered that in our congregations, there is no single theological outlook. And that led me to conclude, though just briefly I will say, that perhaps we are destined to be disorganized. But then I thought about some of what was at the core, some of our values, our aspirations of equity and justice, and our focus on interdependence. And I thought that most of us could, at least with some translation, resonate with Channing's statement that there was within each human the seed of the divine. If that's true, we are not a top-down denomination. We are not a top-down people. We believe that all of us have a seed of the divine in us. So theologically speaking, if we're not top-down, then our congregations and our organizations should reflect that. They need to reflect our values. And so for us, if we're to have institutional integrity, if our values and our principles matter, we'll need to ensure that there is a place for all people. Long-term members, newer people, those who think like we do, those that don't think like we do. We need to find a space where we can be together, where people can make meaning of their lives and find deep and abiding connections, and where they are made to, at some point, Beverley, to feel uncomfortable. I think it's part of the work that we need to do. It means that we won't presume to understand, to assume that we know what the other person wants, and it means that we have to be open to the possibility of change. We need to be open to becoming different than we were the day we walked in. We'll pay attention to the wisdom and contributions of others. I have heard, maybe you have too, people say, I've been a Unitarian my whole life, I just didn't know it. I didn't know it till 5 years ago or whatever, fill in the blank. And I understand, don't get me wrong, I really do understand the point of that statement. I joke sometimes that there were early warning signs for me becoming a Unitarian in my Presbyterian Sunday school. But I don't think we can become a Unitarian or a Unitarian Universalist unless we belong to and associate with a group of people who are doing the work alongside us. It's possible to hold Unitarian and Universalist views and philosophies and to think like that without association with a community. But I believe that it's coming together in communities that reflect our collective values, in communities that help us explore our humanity, in communities that hold us accountable, where the deep and good work of truly becoming a Unitarian Universalist exists. It's in communities and congregations like this one where we do the real and important work of becoming Unitarian Universalists. James Luther Adams was a Unitarian theologian of the last century, and he said two things that I keep remembering. He said, people come to congregations seeking intimacy and ultimacy, and we've named those before. He also said church is where we come to practice being human. We come here to have lives of meaning and to find others who can know us and see us so that we can explore fully what it means to be alive. We live in an age when no one is legally required to attend any particular church or church at all. And the choices we make about where we belong are expressions of our theology. But to do that sort of work, to make those connections, is to risk something. It's to risk being open with others. It's to risk sharing our deepest self with other people. And it's to risk having someone to say to us, I think we can do better. Being in deep community means we must be open to change. This kind of openness is not easy. It will lead us to lands where we are strange to others and others are strange to us. Congregations as gatherings of friendly people are not enough. They ought to be places where we encounter strangers, where we are at least some of the time uncomfortable. If we are personally open to change and challenge, so too our congregations must be. Because unless our structures and institutions reflect our values, things will be askew. So there it is, a challenge for us all. Our congregations need to figure out better ways, always better ways. It's not a deep criticism, but we need to find better ways to figure out how we live our theology and values and how we reflect them in our organizations so that we can minister effectively to one another and to the world. It takes ongoing effort to do this work. We need to enter into the kind of shared ministry that Nowan was talking about. For me to be authentically Unitarian Universalist, congregations need to develop and redevelop programs. Just because we did it 20 years ago doesn't mean it's the right thing to do today. Practices and outlooks that help long-time and brand-new members find a community of meaning, to make changes that help those that are underrepresented find the kind of faith community we want to be is our work. There is a pesky human tendency to resist change. Consciously or unconsciously, we try to keep things the way they are. After all, it works for the people who are here. But who's not here? Who doesn't it work for? Who would find our liberal approach to theology life-affirming? Who would find it life-affirming but are feeling less than welcome because of some of the practices and habits that we have in our congregations? I don't think any one person here or in any of the congregations that I've ever encountered wants to be inhospitable, but the reality is we all are at times. The way we've always done things may not be the way we need to be doing things anymore. Ironically, the truth is ours is a tradition that has changed a great deal over the years. 100 years ago, if you walked into any Unitarian or Universalist congregation, we weren't merged yet, so they were single entities, they were all explicitly Christian. Shifts and changes are part of our story, and they are some of the ways that we have responded to the needs of people we've not yet met. Yet in the past years, there has been resistance in some quarters to new ideas and changes. The eighth principle, while it's a good news story, was not an easy path. It was a rocky road that got us to that vote. And it has continued to be a rocky road in some places. But the reality is everything changes. Some changes we see and welcome, and others we deny and resist. Change isn't easy. It sometimes represents loss, and that's tough. But as we learned in Star Trek, and as the Borg asserts, resistance is futile. The changes are going to happen. We need to make sure our congregations can be and are ready to be open to new people, that our members are willing to risk meaningful engagement, and that each of us in each of our congregations is open to the possibility of change. And I know that's not easy. I think with amusement of my time in my home congregation of Hamilton, which was mentioned. When I first joined the Hamilton congregation, it was completely lay-led. And when the congregation started talking about maybe we should get a minister, I remember thinking, well, what do we need one of those for? And we've moved a couple of times too, and I remember thinking, but I'll miss the old building, but here we are. It's not easy for us to do this work. We feel comfortable when we're dealing with the familiar. It feels safe to have great conversations with people who think the same way we do. But if we don't change, if we don't let the comfort of the familiar lull us into assuming all is well, we may fail to be the communities that our values and our theology call us to be. Happily, maybe, I have some thoughts about what we can do in our congregations to meet this challenge. My thoughts aren't the only useful ones, of course, but I think they're a starting point for a conversation about authenticity. What do you personally do when you find your choices out of alignment with your values or hopes for yourself? I imagine many of us start this difficult work by taking a personal inventory. What is it we want from our lives and our relationships? What would it look like if I were to change or to think differently? And then if you're anything like me, you think of one or two small things you can do that will help move you in the direction that you aspire to move into, to greater alignment. I won't ever get to the place where I can say about my life that everything I do is in perfect alignment with my values. I've already established that I think we're all annoyingly human, perfectly imperfect. And it's a problem for me because sometimes I let perfection be the enemy of the good. I can't get hung up on not arriving because there's work to do today. It's easy for me to get stuck and forget to appreciate the small steps. And I see congregations struggling with this too. Well, we don't know what to do. But if authenticity and integrity are worthy goals, we'll accept our imperfections and find a place to start. If our values reflected in our principles include concepts such as inclusion, compassion, community, encouragement, spiritual growth, dismantling racism, and more, we've got a pretty good starting place for our conversations. How well are we collectively embodying these values is the question I think we need to start with. Something I've observed in myself and many of the congregations I've had the privilege to work with is the real tension between individual needs and preferences and that of the congregation. Your ideas for great worship might differ from mine. I might have ideas about what I think our social justice priorities should be, and you might think they're ill-advised. The ways we, with our varied understandings and preferences, can bump into one another feels limitless. But at our best, we rise above those personal preferences and think about how the community can be its best self, not how I can be comfortable. When we do this work, we remember to think about the collective welfare. It doesn't mean our personal preferences for worship or music or anything else gets completely ignored, but it does mean we ask ourselves what the group needs. I'm not talking about any one person being a pushover. That wouldn't put us in greater alignment with our values. But I am thinking about the beautiful dance that we can create when congregational life is a mix of give and take. How lovely it is when someone can say, in this moment, I'm happy to defer to someone else's preference. It's my gift to them. I think that's important. I'm happy at times to let someone else's immediate needs and preferences take the front seat. My being stretched is good for me, and it's something I can give to honor another person's spiritual path. I know here in your congregation, you are asking yourselves, as you always are, how you gather and organize. It's something that happens during ministerial transitions, and here you are now with Reverend Sally, relatively recently arrived, asking yourselves if you are as welcoming to others as you'd like to be, if your values are reflected in the work you do. Bravo, because that feels like the place we have to start. And you know, it's not always done. I had a classmate in seminary at Meadville Lombard who came from one of the many UU congregations in the Washington, D.C. area. And in class, it was a class on polity, how we organize, he told us of congregational meetings and board meetings at this particular congregation, which were characterized, and he told us this completely unfazed, as though this was not a problem. He said the meetings were characterized by yelling and screaming and name-calling. The other people in the class are like, really? And he said, oh, that's just the way we do things in Washington. It's probably more true now than it was then. Congregational meetings may have reflected that Washington culture, but I don't think it was a reflection of Unitarian Universalist values. He described a congregation that wasn't functioning with authenticity, far from it. Most cases of congregational disconnect I've encountered are not as profound and as extreme as that one. But if we do the work, and if we take an honest inventory, we will understand there is work to do. And that's okay. It's not easy. At times, it's downright difficult. But then again, I think we've all figured out, based on the fact that there's no 4-year-olds here, I think we've all figured out that hard is not necessarily bad. Good work is often challenging. I love our congregations. I love our liberal communities of faith that help people find companions for the journey. I love that there are groups of people who are witnessing to one another's lives and who do it with compassion. I love that people can be brave enough to call one another when help is needed to their higher selves. I love that our congregations and their members are not afraid to look at the world and do the important work of justice making. I love that we can show the world through the choices we make about how we organize and assemble what it is we believe. And I particularly love that we do this even when it's difficult. I feel so fortunate to have found this faith tradition. I'm pretty passionate about passing it on in better shape than I found it for the next generations. I hope all of you know just how much this congregation can offer to the larger community and to the people you've not yet met. Thankfully, no one has to carry that backpack of gear alone. You can each carry a small pack. You can help one another, and you can invite others to join with you in the journey. It makes me happy to know that you're doing this work together and that you're companioning to one another. And I'm so glad to have been here with you today.
Thank you so much, Reverend Linda. Beverley, I think you have one of my very favorite songs for us. If you feel so moved, please feel free to rise in body or in spirit. Move, pace, dance. This will be a good one.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle around to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now, it is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle around to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds, change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now, it is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. This great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
This candle is lit for beloved members of our community, Bob and Sandy Rafos, on the next slide, Carlos, for whom Rafos Hall is named, champions of individual and systems change. What a blessing for them to have been part of our community. And I light this final candle for all the joys and concerns unexpressed, alive in our hearts.
I invite you to join with me in a spirit of prayer or meditation. Beloveds, let us accept sorrow and great sadness as well as the joys and triumphs of this life simply. Let us feel them for what they are, proof of our humanity. Let our hearts be open to pain. Let them be stretched by it, however painful, however difficult. For it is through pain and loss that we can claim compassion. And let our hearts be open to joy. Let them stir at the news of goodness and of pleasure and accomplishment. For this is how we can claim gladness. Compassion and gladness can lead to resolve, to greater mindfulness, and to the valuing of community. For at times when we must face tragedy or triumph, we need one another's company just to be together, to look into one another's faces. That takes away some of our loneliness and draws our hearts together in healing and hope. When we come together, the beliefs that sustain us separately can draw our hearts together. With hearts united in compassion and gladness, with hearts drawn together in healing and hope, we can reaffirm our humanity. And together, with an awareness of our common humanity, we can take up the work of living our lives with kindness, decency, humor, and resolve. Let us remember to live our lives day by day in a way that says to the world, I believe in goodness. Blessed be. And I'll tell you a little bit about today's offering. Today's offering is one that is not going to be given directly in support of this congregation. Funds received today will, unless marked otherwise, be contributed to the Sharing Our Faith Fund of the Canadian Unitarian Council, or the CUC. The CUC is an assembly of independent congregations, and each is responsible for their own community. But just as no individual UU can become fully alive and engaged without living in community, so too our individual congregations need the fellowship of others to flourish. Fellowship among congregations means more than just moral support. It involves sharing ideas, resources, and solidarity in times of success and in times of challenge. Through the Sharing Our Faith program, we are given the opportunity to help congregations who have bold ideas for growth or vitality turn their ideas into reality. It could be a new program, adding additional ministerial or religious education staff or other staff, reaching out to new generations via social media. Those are just some possibilities. Funds are gathered and then are granted to congregations through the Sharing Our Faith program. To be eligible to receive funds, congregations must have contributed. So thank you for your generosity today to help UU communities across the country foster spiritual growth and to spread more love and justice.
Thank you, Reverend Linda. The greeters will now pass the baskets for those making offerings in person. For those using the QR codes, either present on the screens or virtually, you can use the message line in your e-transfer or PayPal donation if you would like to specify that your donation go to neighborhood or be split between neighborhood and the Sharing Our Faith Fund. For those of you here in the sanctuary, you know where the line on the envelope is. All right, let's hear about the life of our community. We're running behind. I'm going to be blasting through these. If you have more questions about any of them, we have a lovely monitor in the cappuccino room with more spicy deets. What do we got? We have a Social and Environmental Action Committee meeting happening today, February 22nd at 12:15 after service. Help us plan actions reflecting our second principle this March and our seventh principle in April. I like that, ukulele club. Come learn, play, and grow. All levels are welcome. We've got a few loners if you would like to give it a try. The first session is today, 2 to 4 p.m. after the C meeting. We're shooting for every other Sunday moving forward. If you have questions, you can email Denise. Conversations for such a time as this, discerning our call in this place, in this moment. is being held by Eastminster at the East End United Regional Ministry Sanctuary in this building on February 25th, March 4th, March 11th, and March 25th at 7 p.m. Connecting with community is our best response to global chaos. Join our free community building event to playfully examine how we may thrive in an apocalypse. Sounds like my kind of chaos. Improv and Image Theater games on February 28th from 1:30 to 5 p.m. right here with Nathan Bragg. Come Gather Round is a summer camp-inspired movement service for all ages happening on Saturday, March 14th. Not our usual movement service time. This one is happening at 3 p.m., so you can still be home for dinner. Doors at 2:30, service at 3, s'mores at 4:30, and free dance from 4:30 to 6. Stitch to Enrich, one of our small groups, is happening in the Cappuccino Room on Thursday, March 5th and 19th, and Thursday, April 2nd, 16th, and 30th. Anyone got the time on that?
Sorry, it should be up there. It is from 12:30 to 3:30.
12:30 to 3:30. Come Stitch and Enrich. Save the date. On Thursday, June 4th, Reverend Pat Trudeau's Celebration of Life will be happening in the Eastminster United Sanctuary. That's where the service will take place at 1 o'clock. At 3 o'clock, a reception will take place right here in Rafos Hall. Our next Sunday service, March 1st, comes to us with the message, Compassion Comes First, from Reverend Stephen Atkinson, music by Alan Gasser, and Kurt weaving our service. Is this where I hand the mic over to you, Lillian? Yeah, pledge campaign update.
A very quick update on our pledge campaign. We were trucking away 40% to our goal of 100% participation. So congratulations to the congregation, and thank you to everyone who's made their pledge so far. Next slide, we are doing a book giveaway for anyone who's already turned in their pledge. So I guess a bit of a drum roll for this week. Our winner this week is... Next slide. I actually don't know who it is. Denise Lambert. So come find me at the pledge desk after service to choose your fantastic UU book. Thank you, thank you.
All right, if that was a little fast for your liking, good news. There's a screen in the Cappuccino Room and your Friday weekly email for more announcements and information about opportunities to connect at Neighborhood. If you're not on the mailing list, hit up the QR code you're now seeing on screen, or reach out to office@nuuc.ca. Sweet, do we have one more song? Yeah.
So I love that this is the first hymn in our teal hymnal. It's the start of the new iteration of our UU faith through music. Morning has come, arise and greet the day. Dance with joy and sing a song of gladness. The light of love here shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home. A new day dawns, once more the gift is given. Wonder fills this moment shared together. The light of peace here shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home. Open your eyes and see that life abounds. Open hearts to welcome it among us. The light of love here shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home.
Thank you so much, Beverly. And will you please come extinguish our chalice? Please join in our chalice extinguishing song. Please take a moment to connect physically as we have spiritually. Hold a hand, touch an elbow or shoulder, share a glance as Linda gives our closing blessing.
These words are by Pat Uriblichi. Go out now with hearts and hands and minds renewed. The world is waiting for you. Go out to the world to bring your gentle touch to those in pain. Go out to feed and house those in need. Go out to speak truth to those with power. Go out with courage to do the work which calls you. Go out now with passion and faith to change the world.
The circle is now open. Our service has ended. Go in peace and love.